Welcome to Culture Summerside's Clothesline Theatre. We have been waiting for you to tune in to hear tales of Prince Edward Island, a place of history and some mystery. You may be surprised by the true stories that have been unearthed and brought to life by our radio dramas. We invite you to settle into a comfortable chair and let the voices and sounds trigger your imagination as you hear the following dramatic story.
The year 1885 brought the new technology of the telephone to PEI. The Telephone Company of Prince Edward Island, incorporated through an act of the provincial legislature with assets of $11,700, began operations in the capital city of Charlottetown with 3 customers and 11 phones. The company quickly established a line to Summerside, the second biggest island community. W.A. Brennan, editor of the Summerside Journal newspaper, had the first 3 telephones in the Summerside Exchange, one at the Journal office, one in his home, and one at the Summerside Trotting Club. The new form of instant communication was exciting, and slowly Islanders who could afford to do so installed a telephone, bringing the number to 10,000 by 1950. But for many Islanders, the phone was still a luxury. Thus, in 1952, the telephone company decided it was time to introduce a new service to the town of Summerside, which boasted of being the most progressive town in Canada.
Afternoon, Miss Mountain. Could you tell Mr. Smith I am here to see him?
Earl Smith is a busy man, Reg. I hope you have a good reason coming into the office to bother him.
He'll want to hear what I have to say, Miss Mountain.
Mr. Smith, Reg wishes a word with you.
Send him through, Miss Mountain.
Yes, sir.
He will see you now.
What do you have to report, Reg?
Well, it took all 5 men of the outside crew, but Summerside's first telephone booth has been installed. It's located on Water Street between Godkin's Jewelry Store and the IMT bus terminal.
How does it look?
It's a fine addition to the street, sir. The 7-foot wooden booth with the glass door looks very sharp. The bright blue color is catching the attention of the street traffic.
Northern Electric does a fine job building the structures. Does the phone itself have a good connection?
Oh, excellent, sir. And at just 5 cents a call, the booth should be a real revenue generator for the telephone company.
I agree. The booth will be a real convenience for people out and about the town. Hopefully we'll encourage people to make the move to installing a phone in their own home or business.
It is definite progress, sir, for this progressive town.
Certain segments of the community were indeed pleased with the phone booth. It offered privacy to a young man wishing to call a girl for a date, or for the lady of the house needing to pass on interesting news without the worry of little ears listening. It worked for conducting all sorts of business, and it may have cut down on the numbers of people knocking on their neighbor's door asking to use their phone for free. But another segment of the community had a different reason for interest in the phone booth.
Hey, what's that? Somebody put an outhouse on the street.
Nah, it's one of those telephone booths. They can get inside and make a call. I saw one that time I was in Charlottetown.
Really? Let's see if we can tip it over.
Nah, it's too solid. I know. Let's steal the receiver.
We can't get no money for that.
Who cares? It's fun taking them off.
Now what are we gonna do with it?
Hide it where they'll never find it.
According to 1952 newspaper editorials, the town of Summerside had a serious juvenile and adult delinquency problem, and editors believed community leaders were unaware of the seriousness of the problem. The phone booth was a frequent target.
The Journal is reporting vandals have stolen the receiver from the phone booth on Water Street for the 2nd time.
Whatever for, John? What can they do with a receiver?
Nothing, Alice. Nothing at all. They are doing it for the hellery of it, and nothing more. The phone booth isn't the only target. Something has to be done about these juvenile delinquents. I'm going to suggest to my service club that we have a speaker at our monthly meeting about what can be done.
Okay, Billy, the street looks clear. I'll cover you while you rip off the phone receiver.
I don't know, Elmer. They're getting cranky about the receiver disappearing. If we get caught, it could be real time at the St. John Industrial School.
That why you ain't getting caught. Now go get it.
Why don't you ever go get it?
'cause I keep better watch. Now get going, I'll punch you out.
The repeated theft of the telephone booth receiver became a topic of discussion at various social settings.
I see in the paper the receiver from the phone booth has disappeared for the third time. Something really has to be done about the apathy in this town around youth vandalism.
Yes, this is a modern and progressive town in most ways, other than this juvenile delinquency issue.
What do you think is the root of the problem?
The answer is obvious: the lack of parenting. Many of these young people are going from homes that set no example for them.
Well, I think it's the fault of the churches. They could be doing so much more in the community and teaching values and in keeping the children busy.
In my opinion, the blame lies at the feet of the police and the court system. I mean, where are the police when these acts are going on? And the sentences given out by the courts wouldn't deter anyone from crime.
I understand that Chief of Police Peter Wyatt has been stressing the need for a provincial home of detention for these juvenile delinquents. There is always the concern that the St. John's School or the home in Halifax won't take them when need be. Maybe having our own institution would be enough to change the behavior of some of these youth.
Many of our youth are treading the path of crime, and I don't think putting them in jail to spend months of idleness in the company of all sorts of criminals will do them any good. We need to remember this is so-called enlightened age, that we are only children.
The Journal Pioneer is spouting the same thought in the editorials. They are suggesting there is lack of services, personnel, and facilities for these youth. But who is going to pay for all these services?
Well, who is paying for all the vandalism? In the end, we all pay.
Maybe it all stems from our economic system. This is a rich town, but not everyone is sharing in the wealth. You see the divide very clearly in the streets, yet it seems the police are the only ones who know the constant petty thieving happening in this town every day and every night by youngsters under the age of 16.
Yes, but why the phone booth receiver? It's not like they can sell it for a few dollars.
The talk about juvenile delinquency continued on, as did the stealing of the phone booth receiver. In December of 1952, when the receiver disappeared for the fourth time since the installation of the booth the previous June, the phone company had had enough.
Miss Mountain, get Chief White on the phone for me.
Yes, sir. Chief White is on line 1, sir.
Chief White, it's Earl Smith over at the Island Telephone Company.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
This isn't a pleasure call, Chief. I assume you are aware the receiver has been stolen from our phone booth for the fourth time.
Yes, I see my officers recorded the incident in this morning's report.
Well, telephone receivers don't grow on trees. This vandalism is costing my company good money, not to mention the disruption to the service and the inconvenience to the paying customers. Enough is enough. If the police don't do a better job of safeguarding the booth, the telephone company will have no option but to remove it from Water Street.
I understand your frustration, Mr. Smith. You have my promise that my officers will keep a close watch on the booth and do the best we can to prevent any further incidents.
That's the guarantee I want to hear, Chief. Miss Mountain, get me the editor of the Journal for me.
Mr. Bernan can take your call now, sir.
Bernan, Earl Smith here. I want you to run a story about the fourth theft of the receiver from the telephone in the booth on Water Street. Let people know that the police will be keeping a closer watch on the area, but if the receiver goes missing again, we'll have to remove the booth.
Why, that seems a rather drastic action. That phone booth is appreciated by so many in the town.
If costs start to exceed revenue, then the company has no choice. We have a responsibility to our shareholders. This blatant vandalism must be brought under control. Make our position very clear in the article.
The Journal did just that. In an article run on December 10th, 1952, however, the story was carried on page 9. The fate of the first phone booth in Summerside is unknown, but vandals must have moved on to a new target, for over time, additional phone booths made their way onto the streets of Summerside. The cost of a phone booth call quickly rose to 10 cents. Maybe it was to cover the cost of vandalism.
The Case of the Missing Telephone Receiver. The introduction was by Lowell Eustis. The narrator was Stuart Smith. The actors were Shelley Stetson, Michelle Askew, Janet Rose Hurst, Risha Walsh, Karen Slater, Mary Olskamp, Paul McWilliams, David Smith, Darren White, Roger Ahern, Chad Perry, Brent Slater, Dempsey Perry, Ian Campbell, Winston Neo, and Stephen Beck. Musician was Christine Anderson Gallant. Foleys were Krista Carruthers, Alexandra Gallant, Jamie Webster, and Sabrina Webster. Recording artist was Peter Gallant. Scripts were written by Marlene Campbell. Scripts were researched by Jean McKay. Prop managers were Carol McFarlane and Sabrina Webster. The production was brought to you by Culture Summerside through the support of Canadian Heritage.